Have you ever stepped into a quiet morning and felt the world breathe with you, only to be interrupted by a quick, sharp sting beneath your ribs? It vanishes before you name it, and you tell yourself, it's nothing. Or you settle into your favorite chair, the one that remembers your shape, and notice the air feels heavier than it used to. Each inhale a little labored, each exhale a little longer. You slept well, you ate well. Yet something in you has dimmed, like a lamp running on a tired battery. Your body is trying to speak. The trouble is, we've all forgotten the language. I'm a cardiologist in my 60s. For nearly 4 decades, I've watched people meet their hearts at the most vulnerable intersections of life. At the entrance to an ER, in the hush of a recovery room, in the long corridor where worry echoes like footsteps. Some arrive in time, some do not. The difference is rarely dramatic. It's not lightning and thunder. It's clouds gathering without a sound. A heart attack is not always the cinematic collapse you've seen in films. The gasping, the clutching, the sudden fall. More often, it begins like a rumor passing through a town. Quiet, persistent, easy to ignore. It shows up as a breath that shortens on the staircase you've climbed 1,000 times. It appears as a fatigue that outlives your nap. It settles as a pressure you can't quite point to, shoulder, jaw, chest, or the space between them where worry lives. We label it age, we call it stress. We say, I'll be fine. And because we say it often enough, we believe it, until the heart insists on the final word. I remember a Monday morning when the hospital coffee tasted like sleep and certainty. Robert, 58, soft-spoken, the kind of man who keeps promises even when no one is looking, was wheeled past the swinging doors. 3 days before, he'd told his wife, "I think I've caught a cold. I'm tired and my left shoulder aches." He didn't have a cold. He had a heart that was working through a narrowing tunnel, begging for oxygen the way a traveler begs daylight. After the procedure, he held my hand and said the sentence I've heard more times than I care to count. If I had known earlier. The heart is never silent. It posts messages in the language of the body. But we live in loud rooms and louder schedules, and we scroll our way past the whispers. Half of all heart attacks begin in that hush, slowly, silently, with warnings so modest they pass for background noise. A smaller breath here, a nap that doesn't restore, a pain that travels, a tourist from chest to neck to shoulder to jaw, never dwelling long enough to be recognized, always lasting just long enough to be dismissed. Imagine the terrain inside you, miles of vessels delivering life to every corner. The coronary arteries, your heart's private roads, must remain open for traffic to flow. But plaque gathers the way dust settles on a shelf you stopped noticing. Fat, cholesterol, the residual stories of meals and years. One day, a piece of that plaque ruptures, and a clot forms, and traffic stops. Downstream, a neighborhood of heart muscle goes dark. That darkness is what we name heart attack. The body, faithful as sunrise, tries to warn you beforehand. You do not need a stethoscope to hear it. You need attention. I could tell you about Linda, 62, who thought she'd strained a muscle folding laundry because her upper back ached and her left arm felt heavy. She fainted in the bathroom. When she woke, she said, "My body told me many times, I just didn't listen." Or Thomas, 67, who felt breathless brushing his teeth, a symptom so ordinary it feels silly to mention, until an angiogram revealed a 90% blockage in the artery that feeds the front wall of the heart. Or Margaret, 59, whose nighttime jaw pain sent her to the dentist. That dentist, bless him, sent her to me. The right coronary artery was almost closed. A small decision, one appointment, one referral, became a bridge back to her life. These stories are not meant to frighten you. Fear tightens the chest in its own way. I tell them because awareness loosens the knot. Awareness returns you to the simple, courageous act of noticing. Noticing that tired sometimes means the heart is running uphill behind your ribs. Noticing that breath, your oldest companion, suddenly feels new and difficult. Noticing that pain can be a traveler, and that where you feel it is not always where it starts. If you remember one idea from this first part, let it be this. Your heart speaks in sensations, not sentences. It is honest to a fault. It will keep telling you the truth, gently at first, then firmly, then, if we ignore it, catastrophically. Our task is to restore the lost art of listening. To pause long enough to hear the quiet messages before they become sirens. To treat small changes not as annoyances, but as letters addressed to our future, stamped urgent by a faithful friend. Fatigue is the first whisper of the heart. Not the kind that follows a long day or a restless night, but the kind that visits without reason, when you wake already weary, when simple tasks feel strangely heavy. This is not laziness, not age, not mood. It's your heart burning extra fuel just to do what it once did effortlessly. The engine is still running, but the road has narrowed, and each mile takes more effort. When I ask my patients, "Do you feel tired often?" they usually laugh and say, "Doctor, who doesn't?" They say it lightly, but the body never jokes. We are so used to exhaustion that we call it normal. But exhaustion is not normal, it is information. The heart, when deprived of oxygen, begins to ration it, saving the best blood for the brain, the lungs, the essentials. That's why you start to feel sluggish. You're not just tired, you're running on reserve power. Then comes shortness of breath, the companion of fatigue. At first, it's subtle. You notice it while tying your shoes, or talking while walking, or walking after talking. You stop to catch your breath and blame the weather, the stairs, the years. But it's not the air that's heavy, it's the circulation that's slow. The heart and lungs are dance partners. When one misses a step, the other stumbles too. I recall a man named Thomas, 67 years old. He was the kind of man who never complained. When he finally came to see me, he said, "Doctor, it's a small thing. I just can't brush my teeth without feeling winded." Small thing. We ran a test. His left coronary artery was nearly closed. A few more weeks and small would have turned into final. He survived, and afterward he told me, "I used to think staying healthy meant eating less salt, but I guess it means listening more." The heart does not always announce itself through chest pain. Sometimes it chooses subtler messengers, a dull ache in the shoulder, a stiffness in the jaw, a pressure between your shoulder blades. These are all part of the same vocabulary, words written in nerves that share the same pathways. When the heart hurts, it can project its pain elsewhere. That's why some people rub their necks when it's their heart that's gasping. That's why some go to a chiropractor or buy a new pillow while their arteries quietly narrow. Margaret, 59, had jaw pain for a week, mostly at night. She thought she was grinding her teeth. Her dentist found nothing wrong and, bless him, told her to see a cardiologist. Her right coronary artery was 95% blocked. A different dentist might have missed it. A different day, and she might have missed her chance. Sometimes the warning signs feel even stranger. Cold sweats, dizziness, nausea. They seem unrelated, so people reach for antacids, sugar, coffee, anything but help. But those moments of clammy skin and sudden weakness are the body's emergency alarm. When the heart can't deliver enough blood, the nervous system tries to compensate. It floods the body with adrenaline. You sweat, shake, feel faint. You think you're sick. You are, but not in the way you imagine. And the truth that unsettles me most, heart attacks don't only visit those who deserve them. They visit the runners, the salad eaters, the careful ones. Because arteries age quietly, they can look clean on the outside and corrode within, like an old bridge that hides its rust beneath fresh paint. That's why I tell every patient the same thing. Never judge your heart's health by how you look or how young you feel. Look deeper, listen longer. A small pain might be a large signal. A light fatigue might be a serious letter from the inside. And if you recognize yourself in any of this, don't panic. Fear tightens the chest. Courage opens it. You don't have to fight the heart. You just have to notice it. If your body has the grace to warn you, have the humility to answer. The truth is simple. The body always tries to save you before it fails you. But you must meet it halfway, with awareness, with curiosity, with the willingness to pause. I once asked a man who had just survived a heart attack, "What frightened you most in that moment?" He thought for a while and then said softly, "I wasn't afraid of dying, doctor. I was afraid of not having enough time. Not enough time to tell my wife I'm sorry. Not enough time to call my son. Not enough time to sit by the garden I've tended for 10 years. That confession stayed with me, because what he said wasn't about medicine. It was about living without listening. The truth is, a heart attack doesn't begin in the arteries. It begins in the way we live, in how we rush through our days, skip breakfast, silence exhaustion with caffeine, and call stress normal. It begins in how we push our hearts beyond their limits day after day, and then act surprised when they push back. I've learned something in these decades of practice. A heart attack doesn't kill you in one day. It kills you slowly, in your habits. The habit of eating too salty, the habit of sitting too long, the habit of swallowing anger and never speaking it, the habit of treating fatigue like weakness instead of warning, the habit of answering "I'm fine" when you're anything but. We all carry these habits. They build up like plaque, not in our arteries at first, but in our minds. And like the arteries, the mind clogs slowly too. We stop feeling, we stop noticing. We live on autopilot until something, a diagnosis, a loss, a pain, wakes us up. You see, every disease has a message. The heart's message is always about balance. It doesn't demand perfection. It asks for rhythm, just like its own beat. Work and rest, effort and ease, giving and receiving. When that rhythm is lost, the body tries to find it again, sometimes with a warning as fierce as pain. I've seen people cry when they hear their diagnosis, not because they fear dying, but because they finally understand how carelessly they've lived. They say, "I thought I was strong," and I tell them, "You are." But even strength needs rest. If one day your chest feels heavy, your breath short, your left shoulder aches, or a cold sweat breaks out for no clear reason, don't wait it out. Don't talk yourself out of it. Every minute matters. I've seen lives saved because someone called an ambulance after 5 minutes, and lives lost because someone waited 5 more. In cardiology, 10 minutes is an eternity. Call for help. Go to the hospital. If you're wrong, you'll lose a few hours. If you're right, you'll gain the rest of your life. Some people tell me they avoid doctors because they don't want bad news. But what they don't realize is this: the worst thing isn't hearing bad news. The worst thing is never hearing anything again. Let your doctor be your partner, not your farewell. Let checkups be your peace of mind, not your punishment. Your heart is not your enemy. It's your most loyal friend. It beats for you when you're asleep. It beats for you when you're angry, when you're lonely, when you're lost. It beats for you even when you've stopped caring for it. But one day, if it stops, everything else stops too. Sometimes I tell my patients to place a hand on their chest. "Do you feel that?" I say. That's not just a heartbeat. That's proof that something inside you still believes in you. The heart has no ego. It doesn't care about your mistakes, your regrets, your age, or your past. It just keeps showing up, every second, every hour, every day, and yet we treat it like a background noise until it falls silent. But gratitude changes that. Gratitude is medicine. Be grateful when your heart races after laughter. Be grateful when it slows down after tears. Be grateful that it still speaks, through fatigue, through ache, through the rhythm you can feel right now. Because as long as you can feel that rhythm, you still have time to change, to rest, to love, to listen. When people ask me, "Doctor, how do I take better care of my heart?" I don't begin with a list of foods or exercises. I begin with a pause to breathe, to listen, to notice what the heart is already telling you. Because the truth is, most people don't die from a sudden attack. They die from a lifetime of ignoring small ones. Little attacks of fatigue, little attacks of loneliness, little attacks of stress that tighten the chest for years until the body finally says, "Enough." The heart is not just a pump of blood, it's the instrument that plays the rhythm of your existence. If you live too fast, it races. If you live too heavy, it strains. If you live too carelessly, it breaks. But if you live with awareness, gratitude, and rest, it hums like a well-tuned melody. We can't control every heartbeat, but we can control how we live between them. So, start small. Walk a little more each day. Even 10 minutes counts. Eat colors, not chemicals. Greens, reds, oranges, blues, the palette of life itself. Use one less pinch of salt, one more glass of water. Go to bed when your body whispers instead of waiting until it shouts. And forgive faster, because resentment does to the heart what rust does to metal. I've seen miracles, not the kind that come from defibrillators or stents. Those are science. The real miracles are the people who change. Like the man who once lived on fast food and late nights, now walking his dog at sunrise. Or the woman who spent years caring for everyone but herself, now sitting each morning with her tea, saying, "Today, I'll take care of me too." Healing doesn't always look like medicine. Sometimes it looks like stillness. Sometimes it looks like a slow walk, or laughter over dinner, or a phone call you've been meaning to make. Because every act of love toward others or yourself is a form of heart therapy. If there's one truth I wish everyone knew, it's this. The heart is resilient, but not infinite. It forgives abuse for years, until one day it can't. So don't wait for pain to teach you tenderness. Let tenderness be the way you prevent pain. When I was younger, I thought medicine was about curing disease. Now at 60, I know it's about teaching people how to stay alive in the deepest sense. Not just breathing, but living with attention. Not just avoiding death, but learning to feel life pulsing under your palm. Science can keep your heart beating, but only meaning, only connection, kindness, peace can make that beating worthwhile. That's why I always end my sessions with a ritual I'd like you to try right now. Place your hand over your chest. Close your eyes. Don't rush. Feel that rhythm. Steady, patient, ancient. It's been there every second since before you were born, and it has never asked for thanks. That's not just a heartbeat. That's a reminder that you're still here, still becoming, still capable of change. Every beat says, you have time. Time to rest, time to forgive, time to live differently from today onward. If your heart is still beating, it's not too late. If your heart is still beating, you're still being given another chance. So, you can start today. You don't have to change your whole life. Just walk 30 minutes a day, eat one more bowl of greens, use one less spoon of salt, go to bed an hour earlier, and let go of one thing that weighs on your heart. Your heart will thank you by beating peacefully for many more years. Science can help your heart live, but only love can help it live meaningfully. So before we end this video, I want you to take 10 seconds, just 10. Place your hand on your chest, close your eyes, feel that rhythm. That's not just life, it's a song, a sacred melody, played only for you. If your heart is still beating today, be grateful for it. And don't ignore any whisper it sends your way. If this video touched you, share it with someone you care about. You might just save their life, or your own. And don't forget to subscribe because I'll be back soon to talk about the simplest ways to keep your heart at peace.